Well, it finally happened. I knew the day would come when I would use a complete sentence to title one of my sermons. Atonement when you're already forgiven. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Please forgive me. This weekend is the close of Yom Kippur, a high holy day in the Jewish liturgical calendar, and we celebrate its Eve, Kol Nidra, here on Friday, with a small community of about 40-45 people. It follows 10 days after the start of the new year, otherwise known as Rosh Hashanah. For those 10 days, the book of life is once more open, and we have the opportunity to make amends for all the wrongs we have done in the past year. We are obligated to seek out those we have wronged and sincerely ask for forgiveness by doing what it is in our power to make things right once more. In Judaism, it's a religious task. No one other than the person we have wronged can exonerate us. It's a heavy task sometimes to make things right. It's funny, we all make mistakes in life. Well, let me check that first. By a show of hands, who here has never made a mistake? Just checking, good. And if anyone raised their hand right then, that would probably have been your first mistake. And yet, even though we all know that we all make mistakes, it's often so hard to ask for forgiveness. Our ego gets in the way. For sure, the ego hides behind a few of its guises: guilt, shame, apathy, and its nastiest form, self-righteousness, otherwise known as he who is never wrong. Yom Kippur teaches us that the ego can't be allowed to get in the way. It's the book of life that's open for 10 days, people. You don't want to ignore that. For some, it means a bodily resurrection when God will remake the world. For others, it's heard as a call to heaven. And for some, it's a reminder that we are here now, alive, and we might as well try to enjoy it. The grudges in the world can be too heavy to carry forever, so we should allow ourselves to put them down eventually. And then there's the other half of Yom Kippur that's the real kicker. If someone has come to you and sincerely tried to make amends, you are obligated to accept the apology. That's right, during this time we are religiously commanded to finally and forever let it drop. I'm not sure which is harder, to ask for forgiveness or to let the matter go when someone finally asks. I guess that depends on each of us, right? For some, it's the one is harder, and others, it's the latter. And if you don't let it drop, in Judaism at least, and I think they're right, then the burden is now on you, the one who had been wronged, because now you are doing the wronging. Practically speaking, it's good advice. We can't live our lives forever in the moment of injury or harm. We all know we all make errors, so we should be gracious when others do the same things we are guilty of. But religiously, this holiday teaches us to move past what was, engage with the pain and the remorse, and keep on moving forward. Life does not tarry in yesterday, but we too often do. Think about it. When we hold on to grudges, months past the offense, despite the person seeking to make amends, it's not really about the instance any longer. It's about our ego. Life is not about our ego. I'm mostly talking about the small to maybe moderate stuff that needs to be forgiven. The stuff that most of us will encounter frequently in our lives. The kid who just cut in front of you in the lunch line. The time she told you off. Your loved one who forgot to call you on your birthday. That guy that lied to you. That argument that just would not go away. Anyone ever have that one? No? Oh, I'm the only one. Love to hear how the rest of you do it at home. The great wrongs in this world that involve blood, real trauma, serious abuse, are more complicated. Some of us have dealt with those as well, but hopefully they are not every day. We should not allow the everyday frustrations to feel like the great, deep wrongs in the world. They should not be treated the same. You know you're doing that, you know you're treating them the same when you say or start using phrases to describe the smaller stuff. that sound like, never in my life have I ever been so offended, or now this is really personal. When you find yourself speaking like that, stop yourself. You're not really talking about yourself anymore. You're not really talking about the other person anymore. You're talking about yourself. Our monthly theme is community, and this holy day has a communal aspect to it. Atonement and forgiveness are enacted and accepted by individuals, but the repercussions are felt by the community as much as the people doing the asking and doing the giving. Any community whose members can't make amends is a weaker community for it. Our spirits will collectively tarry in yesterday. Our work will be dragged down by repeating the injury over and over. Our purpose will veer away from what our aim was as we continue to rehash or bitterly fight through old wars. We will not be here. We will stay back there. No community can thrive in that place. Like our wisdom story this morning about Grudgeville and Joyville, with all the townsfolk carrying all the grudges of the world on their backs. We can't live like that. Oh, hey, Jim, I haven't seen your face in years. When did that tree grow so tall? That's what we miss. It's part of why we're a covenantal faith. Our groups and committees set covenants at the start of each year, or I hope they will, and we return to them when trouble arises. We commit to promises on how we'll engage, how we'll support one another, and how we'll disagree, because we're going to disagree. We don't break our covenant when we slip up. We break our covenant when we walk away. As an aside, I'll invite you all again to consider joining one of our many, we'll call them covenant circles to confuse from other things we've had in the past, that'll begin on Sunday afternoons, following coffee hour, where each dedicated group will reflect on a sermon from the past month. Our transitional DRE, Austin, is organizing the groups, and you can email her or sign up online through the flash links. It's a once-a-month commitment for a year, and then the next year we'll shuffle together new groups so that more people get to know more people. And if the youth group is interested in this as well, I'll offer the sessions that I write to the youth group to use during their own class time, which I know there's a conflict. Small groups are meeting at the same time as the youth groups. Up to them. Covenant is a practice of community. Our choir anthem this morning by Gloria Gaither talks about living as one who's been forgiven. I walk with joy to know my debts are paid. Her song is talking about the bliss her faith in God grants her. Yom Kippur encourages a similar view. We can go through all the motions of making amends and never actually be forgiven by others for our actions. But we're free. The book of life is open at this time. Another's bitterness over the daily little wrongs in life has no authority over our lives. Nor should we ever expect our bitterness to command another's spirit. We don't answer to each other's ego. We walk with joy to another song as she sings. Early Universalists believed strongly in another line of her song. I walk with joy to know my debts are paid. One of the earliest taglines of Universalism was, rest assured, rest assured. In an age where American Christianity was awash with fire and brimstone preachers, our evangelical Universalist forebears would fill massive tent revivals preaching the word of universal salvation. An all-loving God cannot condemn anyone to everlasting pain and torment. Our debts were already paid. It didn't mean that we didn't sin or make errors. It didn't mean that we didn't have to make amends for our actions. It meant that the slate would be clean come Judgment Day. For those of us who don't believe in heaven or an afterlife of some type, the Universalists also applied this belief to daily living. The old joke went something like, the Universalists tried to get along with everyone on earth because they expected to have to live with them after they died. It's a bit snarky, but it's some good practical advice. We might as well try to get along here. To live and to let live. To make amends and to forgive. If God forgives all, who are we not to do the same. And if you believe God is just an ideal, it doesn't really change the message. We ought to be striving to live up to our ideals. Universalism teaches us that we're already forgiven. It doesn't teach us that we don't need to still atone for our mistakes, for our small daily sins against ourselves and our neighbors. As our responsive reading calls us, we begin again in love. Love is the foundation of this faith, and it's a spiritual discipline as well. When you find yourself rolling your eyes at all the love is enough language you're going to hear in this tradition that suggests the world is all too easy to feel love and to give love and to wipe our hands of the problem as if it were nothing. Think again. Love is a practice that requires effort and constancy. Anyone who's ever been a son or a daughter knows this. Anyone that's ever been a parent really knows this. Every time you hold onto a grudge past its expiration date, you have lost faith in the virtue of love. The ego that cries in the corner becomes louder than the bliss of walking in this world. Ask yourself, which would you rather carry? Those backpacks of grudges or a heart of joy? It seems a foolish choice, but one we make all over and over again in our lives, all of us. The song ends, I've been so loved that I'll risk loving too. We've all been loved in our lives. Early Universalism teaches us that we are not so small that God won't love us. Even when we forget, we have been loved by family or friends or the family that we choose on our own, knowing that it might be the only family we ever have. But we are still loved. That love we have felt demands us to pay it forward. Atonement is an act of love. So too is forgiveness. And on this high holy day in Judaism, we are already forgiven. Or as Dorothy and the Wiz sang to us at the end, I have learned that we must look inside our hearts to find a world full of love, like yours and mine. So friends, look inside your hearts this hour. Live and let live. And most importantly, let it go. So that you can let community into your lives. So that you can allow love to set the path of your days. So that this place can be allowed to be the ideal we dream it to be. And rest assured.